Brenda Carey Show is on, you know. We can talk about the ghosts and the UFOs. Cause you never know what you will find when you see new things you no longer find. It's the evolution of your mind. Enlightenment, the entertaining kind. What are the latest scientific discoveries? What are the most terrific animal stories? Psychic friends and astral projection. Aliens and spontaneous combustion.
Yeah, we're running a little bit hot tonight. I can barely see the road for the heat that's coming off of it. Wait, what's that up ahead? Why, it's the host of our show, Brenda Carey!
Hi everyone and welcome to a very important episode of the Brenda Carey Show. This one might just save your life. Have you ever felt a burning deep inside? Have you ever felt like you might just explode? Have you ever worried that one minute you might be sitting in your easy chair in the dark, enjoying a few bottles of Everclear, and the next minute you might burst into flames and burn to ash with no source of combustion? Well, that's exactly what happened to at least 200 people this past 300 years. This phenomenon is called spontaneous human combustion, and most people never know when they're going to be its next victim. That's why this is such an important show today, because we're going to help you assess your risk factors so that maybe you can avoid going up in smoke the hard way. No discussion of spontaneous human combustion would be complete to me without mentioning the band Spinal Tap. So I'm at the Raymond Theater in Pasadena, where Spinal Tap performed in the movie This Is Spinal Tap, and count them, two of their drummers spontaneously combusted on stage.
He exploded on stage.
Just like that?
It just went up. It just was like a flash of green light, and that was it. Nothing was left.
Dozens of people spontaneously combust each year. It's just not really widely reported.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think you'll agree that when I did it, I turned it up to 11.
If we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. Look, right across the board. 11,
Oh,
11.
But spontaneous human combustion in real life is not just for drummers. So now let's explore some actual documented real-life cases of spontaneous human combustion. Come with me. Right here in Los Angeles, California, Ms. Esther Dullen combusted in her easy chair. The chair burned to the extent that it fell through the floor to the floor below. But no other objects in the house were even damaged. You could say she experienced the ultimate crash and burn. On January the 7th, 2010, a patient at the psychiatric unit of Botsford Hospital in Michigan spontaneously combusted in his hospital bed. After an extensive police investigation, the cause of the fire couldn't be determined. But the patient's last words were said to be, "Am I crazy or is it hot in here?" On August 19th of 1966, Ms. Doris Lee Jacobs of Oceano, California, combusted in her trailer home. Although Jacobs suffered burns on over 95% of her body, the inside of the trailer was barely scorched. Officials could offer no explanation for the fire because they say it was the woman and not the trailer that burst into flames, further adding to the evidence that God hates trailers.
Firefighters pull people out of burning buildings every day. But even when they arrive too late, they find more than just a pile of ash and a pair of sneakers. That's because, as any cremation worker will tell you, in order to burn a body to complete ash, as we see in spontaneous human combustion, you must burn the body at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 2 hours. We'll check back on that later.
But I still had questions. Fortunately, one of my very favorite lovers is an expert in spontaneous human combustion. Oh yeah, he's definitely an expert in that. Wow, so that reminds me. Why is it in spontaneous human combustion that the legs and the feet are left and everything else turns to ash?
Well, most witnesses say that the fire in spontaneous human combustion starts in the abdominal area and burns out. And so that's why usually the feet and the ankles are what's left.
Wow. So you are an expert in spontaneous human combustion.
Why, yes, I am.
I thought so. So how does it happen? Am I at risk of it happening to me? Are my viewers at risk of it happening to them?
Well, it depends on how much you have in common with your typical spontaneous human combustor.
Well, what are some of the things that the typical spontaneous human combustors have in common?
Well, the typical spontaneous human combustor tends to drink a lot, alone, in the dark, and they generally have pretty serious emotional problems.
Coming up next, the missing person.
Hey, Uncle Joe, are you still sitting here in your chair all by yourself, just drinking?
Get away from me.
No, come on, get up.
Leave me alone. I like to be alone. Hey, and bring me something stronger than this stuff.
Coming up next.
Uncle Joe, what's that smell? It smells like smoke in here. Uncle Joe? Uncle Joe, where are you?
Wow, that's probably most of my viewing audience. So what causes this to happen to some people, sitting alone in the dark, drinking large amounts of alcohol, with emotional disorders, and not to others?
Well, there are many theories. The one that's most often heard of that seems really implausible to me is called the wick theory. And that theory says that most of these people are smokers, and so they're sitting alone in the dark, drinking and smoking, and they fall asleep. And the cigarette drops onto their abdomen and slowly starts to burn through the skin and then catches the fat on fire, which then becomes the accelerant, which makes them spontaneously combust. I don't really believe that theory because it seems to me the person would have to stay asleep through that, and I just can't imagine that happening. Also, it would take a very long time, much longer than most spontaneous human combustion occurrences are said to occur. They're said to occur very quickly. And the wick theory would take a very long time, and it wouldn't burn a person's bones. So I don't find that particularly plausible.
What are some other theories that people have?
Well, there's a theory that says that spontaneous human combustion is caused by dark spirits that inhabit a person and cause them to combust.
That's scary.
Well, there's actually some support for that idea. And every culture's mythology has some sort of fire spirit, and generally fire spirits are agents of rebirth. They through fire they destroy something and transform it into something new, sort of like the phoenix rising from the ashes. And so if you take that mythology seriously, it's not that much of a stretch to believe that a fire spirit could see somebody who's very unhappy in this existence. They're leading a very unhealthy life. They're not very happy people, and step in and transform that person into an existence that's maybe happier for them.
So you're saying that for some people, maybe blowing up might be the best thing that's ever happened to them?
That could be. Some people have also reported witnessing ball lightning attacking somebody and making them combust. depending on the belief system of the person who witnessed the incident, that ball lightning either came from spirits or aliens or just bad weather. And if you think about it, if in ancient times, if somebody saw ball lightning attack somebody and make them explode, they might say, well, that was a spirit. That was a fire spirit that did that. So maybe these two theories are related. There was a story, a relatively recent story, of a couple that was on a very long road trip. And the husband was driving and he had to pull over to relieve himself.
Why are you pulling over?
I have to pee so bad. It's a really long ride.
Here?
Right here. Okay.
And ball lightning came out of a perfectly clear sky, making him spontaneously combust right in front of her eyes.
Well, I can't believe aliens would do that. Not without good reason.
Well, there's a theory that static electricity causes spontaneous human combustion. If you're, say, rubbing your feet across a carpet on a really dry day, you'll build up several thousand volts worth of static electric charge.
Oh yeah, my nephews love to do that to each other.
You touch somebody, there'll be enough to cause a spark. Generally, though, it's several thousand volts, but it's not a lot of energy. Certainly not enough to cause a fire.
It's a good thing that really doesn't happen, or one of my nephews would be a goner by now.
But the people who stand behind the theory, they say that, when you're naked, it's very hard to build up a static electric charge because you don't have the clothes to store the charge. And they point to the fact that there's never been a case of naked spontaneous human combustion as evidence that for their theory. There are a lot of other theories too. Some say it's a simple chemical reaction caused by, say, electrical activity within a person's cells, or perhaps drinking too much alcohol, or the person's emotional state.
Ooh.
It's just not possible. In order for a body to combust, it needs to be about 23% alcohol. But drinking just enough to get to 1% alcohol is generally a fatal dose of alcohol. So it's just not possible to drink yourself to a flambé.
That's good.
The theories about it being a chemical reaction within the body are supported by some Eastern schools of thought. Generating an intense and burning inner fire is a common theme in both Hindu and Buddhist philosophies. For example, Kundalini Yoga.
Ah, yes, Kundalini Yoga. Megan and I do that together.
Kundalini, which is linked to the Sanskrit term for inner fire, or kundal, generates warmth as it accumulates and becomes an inner fire to help burn away ignorance and ego clinging. Kundalini is generally described as a coiled energy at the base of the spine, or the first chakra. The serpent energy is awakened to climb the spine to the crown chakra. Tumo is a Tibetan Buddhist word meaning inner fire. For Tumo, the fire of the body, or chi, is accumulated at the navel chakra. And the same concept of inner fire is called drod in tantric Buddhist disciplines.
Ooh, tell me about the tantric stuff.
Yes, grasshopper. It's interesting that the Himalayan Buddhist disciplines also have the same concept of inner fire. They call it yantra yoga. Tumo, drod, and yantra yoga are all associated with intense body heat.
Wow, do they burst into flames?
No, they know how to control it. The inner fire isn't even the goal of the practice for them. It's just a sensation felt while seeking transcendental wisdom and universal compassion. The primary purpose is to gain control over the soul's energies as a foundation for very advanced mystical practice.
So these philosophies prove that it is possible to generate intense heat inside the body without any external forces. Do you suppose that people could make this inner fire happen accidentally, and then they don't know how to control it?
Well, if it's possible to do it on purpose, I suppose it'd be possible to do it on accident.
I could see people attributing something like that to dark spirits. Who knows? Maybe it is.
Well, who knows? But it certainly doesn't have to be dark spirits. I mean, it could happen, like I said, in the yoga practices, the person could attain at a very advanced state of enlightenment. There are witnessed accounts of that happening. And so, yes, when you reach a certain state of enlightened existence, you transform into another plane.
All this talk is making me hot. Where's my tea? Now that we know so much about spontaneous human combustion, What are our odds, and how can we lower them? Well, we know that there have been 200 reported cases of spontaneous human combustion in the past 300 years. But what about the vast number of unreported cases that we know must occur each year? Consider the large numbers of unsolved fires and missing persons, which together rise to nearly 1 million every year worldwide, 3/4 of which are probable to be from spontaneous human combustion, according to what we've just learned. Well, combine those missing persons and mysterious fires with the numbers of lightning victims that occur each year, and your odds of spontaneously combusting shockingly start out at approximately 1 in 7,916. But there are things that make your risks greater or less. Smoking and being overweight turns out not to be a problem, does not increase or decrease your risks. Drinking alone in the dark while emotionally disturbed and doing other such things to attract fire spirits raises your risk factor to 1 in 5,333. So, we recommend the buddy system in a well-lit room for heavy drinking, especially while emotionally disturbed. This reduces your risks to a mere 1 in 5.59 billion. Or, if you must drink alone in the dark, we recommend tea. This reduces your risk to 1 in 4 billion. Shuffling your feet across the carpet to shock someone with static electricity. Probably not a real problem, but we will say it could raise your risk a mere 1 in 6,000. But just to be safe, being naked reduces the risk to 0. Driving off to unknown places and getting out of your car to relieve yourself and doing other such things to attract ball lightning raises your risk to 1 in 4,000.
Here?
Right here.
Like on the road?
No.
Eliminate him! Basically, don't do things that might piss off any aliens that might be observing remote areas, and your risk factor will remain roughly a mere 1 in 5.5 billion. Meditation and yogic practices that teach one how to control one's inner fire will actually reduce your risk to a mere 1 in 5.7 billion. This accounts for those who think that they've mastered their inner fire but are mistaken or distracted. Now that you know your risk factors, I hope that these helpful tips will keep you and your loved ones from going up in smoke the hard way. See, spontaneous human combustion isn't so scary after all if you know your risk factors.
That's a relief, because I was worried about it.
I think if you were going to spontaneously combust, it would be from enlightenment.
Yeah, well, I have had some strange sensations in yoga class, and I am very wise.
Wouldn't it be cool if we could combust together? I mean, not so that we're turning into a pile of ash, but just creating some really good flames. Because I've had that sensation too when talking to my viewers.
Well, let's try the new meditation and see if it works.
Okay.
We did it!
We did it! Cool! Okay, kids, we can roast marshmallows tonight.
Cool!
Come on over and roast your marshmallows.
This is a great idea. We should have done this for Christmas.
Yeah, maybe next year. Or the 4th of July.
Yeah!
Oh, yours is on fire. Oh.
Thank you.
And now a submission from one of our viewers.
Excuse me, do you know the way to the museum? Oh, excuse me, do you know the way to the museum? What the hell? Excuse me, miss, do you know the way to the museum? Oh my god, I hate the museum. They have this night exhibit of the stars, and that's where my boyfriend dumped me for that bimbo.
we get it, Brian?
We got it.
Okay. Thank you.
Cheers.
Awesome children actors.
Thank you, Andre.
Goodbye.